Hi, I'm Dave Attwood from Bath Rugby Club, and welcome to the Chip and Chase podcast.
This video is sponsored by The Boot Room, a place where you can get all the newest top-end football and rugby boots, like the new Nike Tempos, but also the vintage ones that your all-time favourite player used to wear, like the classic World Cups. Make sure to go follow them on Instagram, where you can find their entire stock and all for really good prices.
Right, well, how's your week been?
Nice week because it's a short week. Obviously, we're Saturday to Friday turnaround, so there's not too much time to do training in the middle of the week before it starts to affect the game tonight. So it's been a relatively low key week on the field, but obviously, being as it's a game against Bristol, it's emotionally been quite an up week.
How's the season been as a whole? Have you seen, like, how do you think Bath have done in your perspective?
I think, in my perspective, the same as everyone else's season, we have had a pretty crap season so far. We've had some good spells on the field, obviously some really good stuff, but so many results have gone against us. If you look at the margin of loss, I think it's 7 games we've lost within the last 5 minutes of the game and by less than 2 or 3 points. So when you take the 80 minutes as a whole, there's a lot of instances where just one single action has really cost us a game, and then that's kind of built up the last 3 or 4 weeks. We've got on the wrong side of the referee, and I think we've had 9 yellow cards in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And ultimately, you can't win games of rugby with players off the field for so much time. So it's been a very disappointing season so far. There's still an opportunity to turn things around for us to qualify for Europe. And given how tight the league is at the minute, if we get a couple of outlandish results, then we're in kind of contention to make the playoffs. So it's not gone yet, but tonight's game will be pretty telling for us. If we can turn Bristol over and take 5 points from the game, then we got a chance.
It was a big game for both teams, really, because Bristol trying to push for the playoffs and Europe as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Quite a big game.
Both in a very similar position. They've obviously had a rough season as well, and a lot of results have gone against them in the same way that they've gone against us. And I think they're probably coming into tonight's game heavy favourites. But you know what rugby's like. That doesn't necessarily mean an awful lot on the night. So we got to stick to our process and do things as well as we can. And if we can get the rub of the green and get the referee on side, then everything's possible.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we're both Bristol fans, it was quite sad to see you go back to Bath. But there was something about you going to university. Could you tell us about that?
Well, that was part of the reason why I joined Bristol in the first place. Bristol allowed me to go to university while I was playing, and I picked up a law degree while I was doing that. And ultimately, the change in structure of the salary cap meant that Pat wasn't able to offer me anything at Bristol. So it wasn't there was no ill feeling about it, certainly not on my part. And I know on behalf of Pat, there was no ill feeling about it. It worked for me. My kids are still at school over in Bath, so there was no animosity around it at all. It was very amicable, and I'm not too far away. And I think it's always an interesting one because the proximity of the clubs, the close rivalry, the fans often don't kind of see it in the same way. But you have to take a pinch of professionalism and a hefty dose of salt and swallow your pride a little bit. And there was an opportunity for me to play over here at Bath, and that suited everyone.
Obviously, Bath was signing up as well. I bet that's a bit of excitement around in the changing rooms and in training.
Yeah, I think obviously when a player like that comes or commits to the club, it's very exciting. It was the same when Semi was announced over at Bristol. Like it adds a lot of kudos. The fans get excited, the players get excited, and everyone is keen for his arrival, and hopefully that he can kind of fulfil some potential. And it also kind of brings a burden of responsibility, because players like that don't just make magic happen on their own. They need platform, they need ball, they need opportunities to do the things that they can do. So there's a bit of responsibility on us to sort out the set piece and secure ball and territory in order to allow him to be the player that we're hoping he can be.
So going back to like getting into the professional game, what was the process? Did you go through an academy, or did you just like get scouted at club rugby?
So I was involved in the Bristol Counties setup. I played for Bristol Schools. I was involved in the Bristol Rugby Academy, the Bristol Shoguns back then. And ultimately I was let go. I got to kind of 15, 16, and I got called into the office and told, thanks very much for your time, but we don't think you've got what it takes to make it at the top level yet. So go away, stay in the game, carry on playing, and you never know what will happen. And the dream died a little bit with me then, and I kind of went back to college, back to sixth form, and I basically started embarking on real life, looking at getting qualifications and getting a real job and becoming a real boy. And it was while I was at university that I got picked back up by the rugby club. Obviously, I was at university in Bristol, and Bristol pulled me in for a couple of United games as second team, and I impressed Richard Hill enough that he offered me a senior contract. And as kind of part and parcel of that, I elected to reduce my 4-year degree programme to a 3-year, and that allowed me to start playing professional rugby a year earlier than planned. So it was very much a case of I'd kind of given up on the rugby dream and set myself about kind of growing up a little bit. And in truth, that was what was required to kind of tip me over the edge into professionalism.
So then you went to Toulon in 2018 as well, and we were just looking at one of the lineups in one of the games, and the back line was just unfair. How good it was. Did that dominate the league?
You know, when you're at school and someone gets like all the good picks. It was basically like that. The back line we had was, even to be honest, even some of the forwards, the squad was ridiculous. And that was particularly exciting for me because it wasn't a move I'd planned. It wasn't something I'd kind of arranged or orchestrated in any way. It came about through a bit of mismanagement, and it was an unbelievable opportunity for me to kind of fulfill a dream, playing with people like Brian Abendanon, Maro Itoje, Duane Vermeulen, Juan Lobe. These are the kind of rock stars of the game. Even as a professional player, these are guys that I've watched and been like, oh, he's so fucking cool. And now I'm playing alongside them. So that was an incredibly special opportunity for me, and it was an awful lot of fun.
No, I think it was a good move as well, because when players finish their career, they sometimes say like, oh, I should have gone and play abroad. So playing with like one of the best teams in France and playing with that's pretty cool.
Well, that's the thing. Playing in France has always kind of been a kind of a carrot dangling, and I got the opportunity to kind of fulfill that, and we tried to kind of exploit it as much as we can. And at the time, I'd done 9 years or so playing with Bath. I'd been in the Premiership for a long time, and the truth is, I'd become quite institutionalised. And the Premiership is very pragmatic. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot of sponsors. There's a lot of money, and you find that players that stay in the Premiership for a long period of time, the first year or two, they're very, very exciting and kind of new on the scene, and then they start playing a bit more pragmatically and sticking to the system a bit more. And in one sense, that's really helpful, but in another, it's really unhelpful in terms of the kind of rugby you play. And it's a very different approach to the game out in France. So it was a good opportunity for me as well to kind of reinvent myself as a player.
Are there any plans to go abroad again in the future?
No, I don't think so. I think the attraction at the time, the age of my children, they wouldn't have been at school out in France, and now that they're kind of settled They're kind of in year 2, 3, 3, 4. It would be unfair on them to pull them out of school for a short-term gig in France. I think realistically, the age of me now, I'm not going to be signing a 3-4 year deal out in France, which is what it would need to be to kind of make it worthwhile for the kids. So I think I've kind of removed that from the table now, and I'm more concerned about kind of domestic achievements.
You played for England a few times as well. I bet that. Could you tell us about like what that experience was like going into camp and experiencing it for the first time?
It was very strange. I found out that I'd been selected when a journalist called Sam Jones from the Times, he rang my hotel room. I was away on holiday. He rang my hotel. I don't know how he knew where I was, but found out where I was, rang the hotel, got put through to my room and was like, Dave, congratulations. And I was like, what for? I was like, oh, you've been selected in Mark Johnson's England team. And that summer I was kind of on tour with Australia, been selected for the autumn internationals, and relatively out of nowhere as far as I was concerned. I'd been playing regularly for Gloucester and playing pretty well as a young player in the Premiership, kind of cutting my teeth. So it felt like it came a little bit out of nowhere. And then obviously as a second row, like the pinnacle of England in second rows is Martin Johnson. He's now the England coach and he's picked me. So this was like an incredible experience for me to suddenly be kind of rubbing shoulders in that kind of environment. And then the following 10 years to be kind of involved in England rugby, captain in Saxon's tours and stuff like this, all over the place. It's an incredible privilege when you're called up to represent your country, because it is external acknowledgement that you are one of the top people in the country that do what you do, and that's something that I'll kind of be able to hold on to and show pictures to the kids and all that kind of stuff forever.
Who do you think is going to win the Six Nations?
I think at the minute you'd be losing a lot of money if you bet against Ireland. They look so strong and so comfortable in pretty much all facets of the game at the minute. I never like to write England off at all, because we've got such a depth of talent, but things don't seem to be clicking for us right now. Same as they're kind of not for Wales either. There's some cogs just aren't kind of working. I think Scotland obviously having the best Six Nations they've had for an awfully long time, but I think when they're faced with the power and speed of Ireland, they're going to come unstuck, if I'm honest. So I think we'll see. Maybe Ireland are peaking a little bit too soon for the World Cup, but they've got to be up there, because at the minute they're pretty much dispatching everyone. So I think you'd be hard pressed to bet against them.
Got them still on for the Grand Slam as well, because they're playing.
Yes.
They're playing France this Sunday, so that'd be good. That'd be a good game.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
He's been kind of the biggest star or the biggest young talent in the Six Nations so far.
In terms of kind of breakthroughs, I think probably you're looking at some of the English talent, really. People like Ollie Lawrence kind of getting an opportunity to kind of really spread his wings. I think maybe Portfleet, one of the nines with England, again, they're kind of. You still look at people like DuPont, and they're in the same kind of age category, but already not only broken through, kicked the door down and kicked it back through again. So in terms of new emerging talent, I think you're probably looking at some of the English guys.
You hope to be getting back in the England squad anytime soon, or is that kind of dusted?
I think that ship's probably sailed for me. In truth, I very much enjoyed that kind of opportunity, but I think that you get to a point where you need to kind of focus your energy and your endeavour, and I think I can make more difference domestically than I could on the international stage, and I don't think I'd do the shirt justice anymore.
How do you think the World Cup's going to go then?
Well, that's the interesting one. New Zealand don't seem to be firing in the same way that they have done historically. Ireland are obviously red hot favourites in terms of the league tables, and they're kind of the form team, but their history is always seemingly, when it comes to World Cup, to be the also-ran. I think the way they're playing at the minute, they have to be up there in the final. I think France have got the pedigree to kind of be up there. South Africa, you can't write off, although they've been relatively quiet in the last year or so. But as things start gearing up towards the summer, I'd be surprised if they don't make a run for it. I think they're probably the 4 teams you're going to see in the semi-finals. And I'd love to see an Ireland-New Zealand final, but I haven't actually seen them, so I'm not sure it's possible.
Reach for time 15. That might be a bit short notice, but everyone's managed to kind of get one.
Yeah.
So, what would be yours?
Best ever that I've played with.
It could be anything. So, who you played with against, or just your favourite players of all time?
Let's have a think. I think I'd probably go. I love the aggression of Ellis Genge. I think he's right up there. I always loved playing with Rob Webber and Davey Wilson on the tighter side of the scrum. That always really suited me very well. You'd probably be hard pressed to find someone less gifted than Victor Matfield and Bakkies Botha in the second row. Really, they kind of exemplified the perfect kind of combination of physicality and line-out prowess as well as intellect. Duane Vermeulen's packing down at number 8 for me. Who I be 6 and 7? Sam Underhill at 7, and then who's gonna be on the blind side? Oh, probably Maro. To be fair to him, probably one of the biggest talents in English rugby for a generation, really, at number 6. 9 is going to be Michael Claassens. He was a 9 when I joined Bath, and I remember playing against Bath at the time, and we'd spend the whole week basically prepping around how much of a threat Michael Claassens was. Ignored all the scrum, all the line out, all the set piece, every other player in the team, just focused on Michael Claassens. Who's going to play 10 for me? Possibly. This will be an interesting pick, actually, because there's been a lot of pressure on it, but I'd probably put Owen Farrell in there. I don't think I've played with a 10 who was as professional as he was. I'd love to have Abendanon and Mathieu Bastareaud in the midfield again. Those guys in their prime were just doing things that other people couldn't do. I appreciate that doesn't leave any room for Semi Radradra, but I think it's a tough one, isn't it? You're kind of 6 and half a dozen. You're talking about the best players in the world, aren't you? Chris Ashton at 14. I've never met someone who could poach like he could. And then who's going to play on the other wing for me? Someone with a bit of. I'd probably go Luke Morahan, actually. Luke Morahan, I think, had such a good all-round game. He was quick. He had good feet, good handling, and then fullback. I'm gonna choose Nick Abendanon. I really should choose Charles Piatow because he obviously is one of the best players in the world. But I always loved playing with Nick Abendanon. I felt like his approach to the game was second to none, really.
Good teams, big team as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna try and kick fuck out people. That's the plan.
Yeah. No, I'd like to pick Luke Morahan because I thought he was quite underrated at Bristol as well.
Massively. Such an integral player. Also in terms of his communication, the way he spoke and kind of talked to the 9s and 10s made a massive difference. You could tell when he was playing and when he wasn't because of how well covered the backfield was.
The only other thing we do is favourite kit of all time. And well, you've played with some good Bath kits, as much as
What would my favourite kit be? I think in 2015, the kit we took to the Premiership final, that was the most iconic Bath kit. I felt that was a great kit. Kits that stand out, obviously, going to be the Bath Flames. Nobody liked the Flames, especially not the players. And I'd actually be tempted to say that Bristol's European kit last year was not a favourite of mine.
I think European kick when he won the European trophy for us.
Yeah, it wasn't the strongest.
Thank you very much for joining us.
That's right, lads. Happy to have a chat. Enjoy the rest of your day. Right. Cheers, lads.
Good luck tonight as well.
Thank you.
Thanks again to the Boot Room for sponsoring this video. Make sure you go and follow them on Instagram and all over their socials, and stay tuned for the next episode.